broadcasting to you to a number of radio stations across the country. You are going to be picking this discussion on Magic FM 100 FM and UBC Red Channel 99.4 FM in Lira and Northern Uganda. You're also going to be picking us on UBC Red Channel 97.4 in Arua and West Nile region. You're also going to be picking us on this broadcast on social media. We are going to be streaming live on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube via the following: at UBC TV on Facebook, at UBC TV on Facebook, also on Star TV on Facebook, and then on Twitter at UBC Uganda on Twitter, at Star TV Uganda 1 on Twitter, and then on YouTube you will be picking us at UBC Television Uganda on YouTube, and as well as at Star TV Uganda Official. That's also on YouTube. The guests are already here sat. I have, starting on my immediate left, a man who certainly needs no much introduction. A senior lawyer, a senior legislator. One time, the Fountain of Honor described him as a poisonous mushroom in politics. But he is Honorable Abdu Katuntu, MP for Bugweri County in Busoga. You're most welcome to this maiden show.
Thank you, Charles.
Tell me, how does it feel?
Well, I think it feels great. Congratulations.
You have been in public debate, especially on broadcast, for many years in Uganda.
Yes.
This is a new one. How does it feel?
Well, let's see how the experience goes, but I'm excited to be here.
What do you want to achieve with this going forward?
I don't know what you mean by what I want to achieve, but I think this is a public discussion, and I do guess we shall have a useful conversation, and the program to become quite informative to our audience.
Good.
Yes.
Thank you. It's good to have you, and I'm sure we will have a good discussion.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Next to Abdu is Mr. Ramadan Gobi, not yet MP, not yet honorable, but in his own merit, honorable enough. He is a policy analyst. He is a university don. He lectures economics, especially political economy, at Makerere University Business School, MUBS, as they call it. You're most welcome, Ramadan.
Thank you, Charles.
I've had discussions with you on other platforms before, but as a guest, now you are part of the thing.
This is great to be part of the national broadcaster.
Yeah.
And it's a very good feel, you know, to be talking to the entire country from our own public broadcaster.
Good.
Yeah.
It's good to have you, and I'm really hoping that we will benefit a lot from you.
Pleasure.
That teaching you give to students, now you need to translate it to now us, the old people as well, in our sitting room. But it's good to have you.
Thank you.
We are going to be receiving or meeting the Honorable Margaret Muhanga, all the way from Fort Portal on Zoom. She had a late campaign and couldn't reach Kampala, so she has opted to join us from Zoom. She is also going to be a panel, and a part of the panel, but she will join us shortly. But the main one, the big one, a lady who has seen it all in our politics the last so many years, and for many of you, some people just hear her voice, some people just look at her face on television always, but here she is live, coming all the way from here. The Right Honorable Speaker of the 10th Parliament. She was Speaker of the 9th Parliament, the Honorable Rebecca Alitwala Kadaga, a lady from Kamuli in Busoga, and she was in CA, then in the Parliament, and has been, if I'm not mistaken, from the 6th or from the 7th Parliament. Madam Honorable Speaker, you're most welcome, and it's a privilege to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be in the vicinity of Parliament, but in the studios of UBC. It's a real pleasure.
You are the third You are in the third in the hierarchy of this nation. After the president, vice president, it is you. And you determine a lot with your debates in parliament. And as you always say, parliament means parley, you know, to talk and to converse. What's your expectation of this talking here and going forward? You are the first guest and certainly the most high profile so far.
Well, I think I welcome the opportunity to speak from the UBC studios. I look at it as an opportunity to inform the public about the work we do. A lot of people don't watch television. Many are not on Twitter. They cannot see Parliament Watch. Not many can access the newspapers. And for some, it's difficult to follow proceedings every day. So for me, it's a wonderful opportunity to talk to the public about our work.
Yeah, thanks. It's good to have you. We, like I said, we are going to soon, the technical guys are working the phone so that we can get our colleague, Margaret Muhanga from Fort Portal. When we get her, I will be bringing her on the show and to join in this discussion. But let me start with you, Honorable, Madam Honorable Speaker. Let's start from, we are going to be looking at the performance of Parliament this evening, as well as what role Parliament can play in can I call it redevelopment or reconstruction, picking up the pieces from the pandemic that we now have, COVID, which has disorganized a lot of things, economy, social life, the political landscape has been disorganized. You now only sit with a limited number of MPs because we have to respect social distance. Just the way we are here, we would be having 6 people sitting next to each other. When we talk of, and then when we talk of Parliament, then there is the question of your performance. An organization that you have been working with through a memorandum of understanding, AFLI, released a report recently. The worst is a minister, the best is a minister. What do you say about the performance of Parliament in your own view? What if I asked you, mark yourself, that now we are ending the 10th Parliament, what marks would you give yourself and why?
I would give ourselves, in the circumstances, 85%.
85?
Yes.
Wow, that's quite generous. Ramadan is a teacher. He will review that, but first go for it. Yes, because
we have a number of roles. We have facilitated all the budgets. That's one of our responsibilities, budgeting. One of our responsibilities is legislation. We have accomplished that. The other is representation, and then legislation. I just want to give you a few highlights of what we've done. And I'm running through the first, second, and third sessions of the 9th and 10th Parliament.
Yes.
In the first session of the 9th Parliament, we had 94 sittings.
Yes.
In the 10th, there were 72. In the second session of the 9th Parliament, there were 103 sittings. In the 10th Parliament, there were 82. In the third session, we had 98 sittings. In the 10th Parliament, we had 105. In the fourth session, we had 98 sittings, and the 10th Parliament so far, we have 116 by the end of the fourth session. We have progressively improved on enactment of legislation. In the 9th Parliament, we enacted 9 bills in the first session. In the 10th, we did 17. In the second session, we enacted 16. In the 9th Parliament second session, we enacted 16. In the second session of the 10th, we had 11. The third session was a big improvement. The 9th Parliament, we enacted 19 bills. In the 10th Parliament, we enacted 26 bills. Then the fourth session, which has just been concluded, the 9th Parliament had 22 bills, and in the 10th Parliament, we had 25. So there was
there was an increment of 3.
Yes, and in the legislation. And we had a number of ministerial statements, 35 in the 9th, 63 in the 10th, second session 15, and 62 in the 10th Parliament. 31 ministerial statements in the 9th Parliament, 51 in the 10th. 4th session we had 48, and the 10th Parliament 105 ministerial statements. And these statements come because of issues raised by the members of the House. So it's an improvement in the area of scrutiny and accountability of the government. I'm really excited that in the 4th session we had 10 proposals from members for private members' bills. You know,
10 private members' bills.
Just in the 4th session. You know, in the 7th Parliament, I think we had 3 in the entire 5 years. The 8th, I think we had 5. 9th, maybe we had 10 throughout. But each session, there are proposals for private members' bills. So the question of representation, identifying issues, has come out quite well. So I think that that's why I say, for me, I would give ourselves 85%.
But an ordinary Ugandan would be asking that those are quantities that you have listed, good because you understand them, but does it trickle down to the ordinary person in, say, Kamuli, say in Kisoro, somewhere in Arua? Would they feel it? Would they say this translates into this? Which
yes.
one? Which kind of that statement or motion or law,
yes,
or even a private member bill, would you say this translates into this quality of value for the time that MPs sit in the House?
For instance, for a long time we had this issue of the problems of the fishing industry.
Yes.
The meetings have stopped. They have stopped because we have been talking continuously about them. So that's straight for the people. We have made a resolution in the House, in the Committee of National Economy, that when there are roads being constructed, we should have rest places where the people of Uganda can stop, drink some water, use the washroom, where mothers who are carrying children in a bus are able to support them to organize themselves. We have also decided that all the markets should have facilities for daycare. We have moved, by example, ourselves to establish daycare center at Parliament so that the staff and the members can put their children there, do their work as the children are comfortable. So there are many things we have done which touch, and really most of these are for the ordinary people. The laws we are making, the proposals for private members' bills, these are areas of shortage, lacuna, within the existing law.
Okay.
So what we are seeking is to fill the gaps in the legislation.
Okay, let me come straight to a legislator who sits with you, but on the other side, and looks at some of the laws that are being made or proposed laws that are being brought. Honorable Katuntu, you have listened to the Speaker. Are there some of these laws or you know, the statements that are brought that you can touch and say, this stands on all fours, it is good in value for the people of Uganda in this and the other?
I don't know whether you should take that line of argument.
Okay.
But I want to speak from the point you raised earlier. As a layman, how does an ordinary Ugandan benefit from the work of Parliament? I think that's most important. When every year, at the end and beginning of the financial year, we do pass what we call the appropriation bill. That appropriates resources, national resources, to the entire country.
Yes.
There is no village in this country where you will not have a borehole, where the sub-county has not received the monies to do community roads, where, for example, there is a health center 3, which National Medical Stores has not sent medicine. And if you are talking about the ordinary person, that one who goes to that health center 3, and he picks, you call it coatem?
Yes.
For purposes of malaria, you know, Parliament has appropriated that money. It's not like when you see Parliament will not get money and just try distributing it to people. it has to go through government institution. And the function, actually the most crucial function of the parliament, of a national legislature, is appropriation. Has parliament appropriated resources every year for various government functions for purposes of service delivery? Yes. Let us look at the statistics, whether you're talking about universal primary education, you are talking about universal secondary education, and so on. So that is the role of parliament. I'll give you an example. At the beginning of parliament, I used to be chairperson of the committee
on statutory enterprises
and state authorities.
Yeah.
When we inherited that committee, we had a big challenge that many government programs had displaced some people, and the project affected person had not been paid, whether it is the Uganda electricity distribution, whether it is UNRA. We did manage to prevail upon government and recovered money which had been stolen actually, and had all projected affected persons paid their money throughout the country, different UNRA projects. So yes, parliament does its work, and it is that appropriation of resources where the ordinary person can feel what parliament does.
What about in terms of scrutiny?
Oh yes, I mean, we have one, parliament works through committees.
Yes.
And we have what we call oversight committees, whether they are accountability committees like those chaired by the opposition, whether they are sectoral committees. And literally every week you have seen ministers with government officials and the ministry officials coming to account for what they do before committees of parliament. We have seen parliamentary committees running all over the country, inspecting government programs and coming to ask ministers why some government programs are not running as they should be running. But having said that, you see, in a country which still faces a number of challenges, for example, unemployment, for example, poverty, for example, corruption, for example, abuse of human rights, you would still say parliament could do better. Because people really are suffering, but poverty is biting. And they expect their representative to be able to put these issues on not only in the House for purposes of discussion, but to find solutions to their poverty, to employment, to service delivery, and that's where sometimes we as an institution fall short because those challenges are still prevailing.
Good. Ramadan Gobi, you have listened to the two legislators with us here. Do you feel the value for your money as the ordinary Ugandan we are talking about? Now, if you step on the other side.
Very good question. First of all, thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving that accountability. And that accountability is in terms of the outputs of Parliament, because one of its key functions, as she has said, is legislation.
Yeah.
They have legislated those number of bills. But as an ordinary Ugandan, and any other person who is not so much well versed with what exactly Parliament should be doing, I look at the outcomes more of those bills in terms of what contribution have they made to the ordinary lives of Ugandans. And I want to believe, first of all, there are a number of bills which have been outstanding. In a way, for example, when they brought out the bill on landlords and tenants, we were very, very much interested in it, because that's one area where anyone who's watching us out there would want to see how the tenant is relating with the landlord and the vice versa without challenges. Like now, we are having this COVID situation, and a number of tenants in Kampala here are facing a very big challenge of landlords expecting them to pay rent for a period when they didn't work, they didn't earn money, and we have seen protests beginning now in town. And now anyone would want to see how is this bill which was passed. I don't know whether it was assented to though by the president. Not yet.
But it was passed.
It was passed.
Yeah,
it was passed a long time ago. Long time ago.
Did it anticipate a situation like, and maybe even the president, we need to ask why it hasn't been, he hasn't yet assented to it, because it's a very critical bill to me to manage, regulate this relationship. And we would want to see a solution now coming at this point in time to solve such. Those are the tangible kind of things people would want Parliament to address right now. I remember also there were bills like the coffee bill, which was taken to Parliament, and I think it was later withdrawn. There was a bill on sugar.
Isn't the coffee bill on in the House? It's the one they're
one clause remaining.
One clause.
One clause.
One clause,
okay.
yeah. They're going through it now.
So those are kind of things which I think anyone who's listening to us would want to really have a feel. The number of bills versus the outcomes of those bills is very, very critical for an ordinary person. But that also goes with the definition of the role of Parliament to the ordinary person. Especially at this point in time, it's election time. They have started the campaigns. They have been, of course, getting everybody running to their parties to seek for that card or whatever they call it, permission to stand.
Nomination forms.
The nomination,
forms.
yes. What is the message that the aspiring members of Parliament give to the public as their role they are going to play? Because that's how people assess the performance of the individual MPs, and by extension assess the performance of the Parliament itself. During the times like now, people are promising everything that they are going to deliver as members of Parliament. And yet, parliamentarians, they are mainly doing legislation, like the Speaker told us, oversight and representation. But now when you sit on this television and you start hearing what they promise people, it's about how they are going to deliver development in terms of roads, how they are going to do certain things in those constituencies.
If you are assessing Parliament as you a teacher, who do you blame for that? Let's imagine MPs, every MP has a KPI, a key performance indicator.
Yeah.
And now it is time to assess how they have performed, like the African Leadership Institute has just done last week.
Yeah.
Are you going to assess them on what the people they serve want, which is attend so many funerals, make sure you are part of us when we are celebrating the baptism of a child, build a road, promise a bridge where there is no river, and they are forced to do that, to like you're saying, and promise, or are you going to assess them against actually the 3 or 4 cardinal roles, i.e. legislation, representation, oversight, appropriation? How would you do it?
Definitely, assessment is according to the exam that you set. In this case, according to the
wishes of the people.
No. I would want to see members of Parliament play their role, as it is stipulated in the Constitution. The challenge is...
You want to ask Madam Speaker about that now? Do you want to pass it to her?
I would lend her my time.
Maybe, Honorable Madam Speaker, we need to bring you back there.
Yeah.
Do you get a sense, given the current, let me call it some frustrations and perceptions, the kind of thing he is expressing, is saying that people, some MPs or your colleagues, promise this and the other, And people now want to judge them by that, even if it is not in their mandate or within their role. Do you think to that extent your MPs, that Parliament is performing its role?
First of all, I think that the evaluation of Parliament should be done on the institution. What has the institution done, rather than individual MPs? Because you may have some very vocal MPs in the plenary who probably don't do any work in their constituencies, but they're visible. So I think we should be judged, I guess, our roles. What is our role? Have you done the budgets? Give us a tick there. Have you done the legislation? Yes, we have. So judge us on the roles of Parliament, which are made under the Constitution. And I want to caution any aspiring candidate who promises roads and bridges. They do it at their own risk. They do it at their own risk. I think it's better for us to tell the people that I'm going to ask. I'm going to speak for this.
I'm going to lobby.
I'm going to lobby. But to say I'm going to build that road, it's very, very risky. Very risky indeed, and I would not advise it. Now, on Dr. Govi has talked about what is the impact of the law to the population. Now, my work as a legislator is to enact the law.
Yeah.
It belongs to a sector. So once I've completed that law, I give it to the minister concerned. The Minister for Roads to go deal with the Traffic and Road Safety Act. The Minister for Internal Affairs go and deal with this. The Minister for Energy go and work on the mines and so on. So we are not implementers. Our work is to set the law, and then we hand it over to the government to implement. So if they are not implementing, you can't blame Parliament. I've done my job. I've made the law which you brought for me. I'm equally dissatisfied by the President's delay in signing the landlord and tenant bill. We spent so much time on it. If you knew the amount of lobbying from the tenants, from the landlord, we were under siege for a long time. But we enacted the law, and I really would want to urge him to work quickly and handle it. Now, concerning the present situation.
But you meet him quite frequently, don't you? Whisper to him that my chairman, the other one.
I do, but I go there to talk about roads, talk about the railway, talk about electricity, talk about what. And really, he has got an office which should be reminding him about that. When I remember, I do, but that's not my primary responsibility because I really have a lot of other work. But I just wanted to talk about what Professor Govi has said, that what we should be doing. I want to assure you that Parliament was very, very proactive. When this COVID situation began, in the second week, we sat down as the House, we established a committee and asked ourselves to evaluate what is the likely impact of this COVID-19 lockdown. So we had our committee sat, I think, for about 3 weeks. They came out with a very, very comprehensive document about what is the likely impact and what we think the government should do. We talked about issues like unemployment, the effect of the economy, and so on. We had a very comprehensive document. We were the first in that arena. So we were very proactive, and we made proposals for the government. So we have not been sleeping, and recently, because the government had not responded to our resolution, the matter came up again in the House, and we said, we want you to come clear. What are we going to do about the rent? What are we going to do about the loans? What are we going to do about the livelihood of the people? All those things. So we are waiting for the government to tell us that for this we have provided this. The Minister of Finance came with what he calls a very broad stimulus package. But we want to know, okay, of the fishermen, how much is this for them? Are you going to give them boats? Are you going to give them nets and so on? The surround operators, are you going to assist them to buy this or the other? So we want specifics, and we are waiting for the Minister of Finance to tell us in that package